Right, no turning back. Let's go for it. Hello and welcome to Shooter Ready, the GBPRA podcast. I'm Christian Westcott, your host, and I'm joined tonight by the Ladies Division shooters for Team Great Britain. Hi, girls. You okay?
Good, thank you.
Hello.
Hello. So we've got Laura, Annie, and Holly. We couldn't be joined by Heather, but the ladies have joined us tonight to talk about their successful campaign in Italy at the inaugural IPRF PR22 World Championships. Before we get into that, though, and we introduce our guests tonight, I thought it'd just be worthwhile just mentioning that we haven't had a podcast for a few months now. That's completely my fault. Been very, very busy. Part of what I've been working on is helping the team with all of the preparations for Italy. But now we've had that successful campaign over the summer, we thought it was time that we'd start the podcast again and invite all of your Team Great Britain shooters to talk about their experiences in Italy. And we thought, what better way than to start with our lady shooters? Right, so who wants to go first and introduce themselves? Dead silence. I'll tell you what we'll do then. Whenever this happens, it's always best to start from the left of my screen and move over to the right. So Laura, you're up first.
Okay, so hello, I'm Laura. I not been shooting long, but I got into it in February, and yeah, it's sort of gone from there really. Started with.
So you've only been shooting since February?
Yeah. So altogether, I started with a centre fire match in February, and then quickly went to a 2-2 match afterwards, and just got the bug really. But it was all started just from watching my partner shoot, and just being there anyway, and people saying, "Oh, why don't you give it a go?" So yeah, it went from there.
And when you're not shooting, Laura, what is it you're normally doing?
Looking after my baby boy Louis, and I also play football.
Fantastic. And Louis is sort of our, I was going to say unofficial, but we should actually elevate him to official mascot of Team Great Britain, I think.
Yeah, I'd say he's official now. He's been coming since he's 11 weeks, and he was 18 months yesterday.
Wow, congratulations, 18 months old. I remember when my son Luca was, who you all know, was 18 months old, and he was an absolute handful. He still is a bit of a handful, but in different ways now.
Oh yeah, he's a terror, but we're all right.
Well, we all know Louis very well, and it's always great to see him at the range. And yeah, he's definitely got to be our official mascot because he's now been to a World Championships.
He has indeed.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about Louis in a bit. So, hi Lauren, thank you for joining the podcast. Holly, you're up next because Andrea actually switched off her video and that bumped it to the other side of the screen. So Holly, you're now next.
Hi, I'm Holly. I started shooting PRS in end of June, July. It was all a bit of a whirlwind situation, which is entirely down to Annie's husband, Ryan. I have probably more rifle shooting, I think, than the rest of the girls' experience, but from more of a hunting background, this is my first kind of foray into target shooting.
Well, that'd be really interesting to hear about later on in the podcast because considering you've only been shooting precision rifle for such a short time, you know, you certainly had a successful campaign in Italy. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how your experience of shooting in the hunting world transfers over to precision rifle.
Yeah, it certainly made a few aspects of it a lot easier and a lot quicker to pick up, I think.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show. And Annie, you're up next.
Hi, so I'm Annie. I got into shooting really because I'm married.
I think she said in the group she's got really bad weather by her, so it's knocking the signal.
Charlton, who is the signal dropped again?
Yeah,
it did for a minute, yeah.
I'm going to get Ryan to hotspot me, so hopefully that will bolster it. We've got really high winds. I don't know if you can hear them outside, and that's just made our internet go really patchy. But yeah, so I say being married to Ryan, if anyone's met Ryan, you don't sort of be around Ryan for long without having a gun put in your hand and say, have a go at shooting. So I got into it through him, and just really enjoyed it. So I started with centerfire competitions and then got into the 2-2.
Well, Ryan's certainly got a lot to answer for. And most of them are good things. And you're right, you're not around Ryan for very long before he puts a gun in your hand.
Basically, yeah. Am I just dropping in and out on the internet here?
You are, Annie, yeah. I think we need to get Ryan's hotspot up and running.
I'm trying.
So, right, Annie, welcome to the show as well, and hopefully we can fix that connection problem. The fourth member of the ladies Team Great Britain show team was Heather Armstrong, who couldn't join us tonight. Heather's a university student. She had other commitments that meant that she couldn't join the podcast tonight. So, Heather, if you're listening into the podcast, we miss you, and hopefully, if we do a show again in the future, we'll certainly have you along to talk about your experiences in Italy. So, Italy was what, a month ago now?
Yeah, just
over a month now, I think, wasn't it? And are you all come down off the high of your glory?
Just about.
So do you want to just so maybe I'll explain a little bit about the format for the IPRF World Championships. So Great Britain took to the Precision Rifle 2-2 World Championships in August a team of 22 shooters that was made up of 6 shooters in the open division, 4 shooters in the factory division. We had 4 in seniors, we had 4 in juniors, and of course 4 in ladies. So we had a full complement of shooters for the World Championships, and it was a very successful campaign by anybody's standards. So I don't know, Holly, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what the ladies team achieved while you guys were over there?
I am so super proud of all of us in the ladies, because collectively our PRS experience is so little in comparison to some of the other ladies we were shooting with. Like I said, I've probably got a little bit more experience with the rifle than you girls, but everything I learned before I went, I learned with you guys and from you guys. And yeah, we were a really strong team. We really supported each other. I was lucky I was in a squad with Laura. So, our shooting days we were together, which I don't want to speak on Laura's behalf, but I was so hugely grateful to have somebody I knew with me. But yeah, we were on the podium. We got team bronze, which I think, considering our very thrown together last minute team, yeah, it was a real achievement against some really talented lady shooters. It was from a beginner's point of view to go. I mean, it was my first match, so to go to a World Championships and see what the rest of the world is doing was quite daunting. But actually, we didn't do too bad at all. I think we should all be really proud of ourselves.
Yeah, no, I think the whole nation can be very proud of what you all achieved. And yeah, it was fantastic to see you all up on the podium receiving that bronze medal for the ladies division team. And yeah, you were up against some very stiff competition. It was the ladies from the USA who've been shooting precision rifle for a long time and obviously put a lot of effort and practice into their sport. But you can see they're very passionate and committed to it. It was no surprise to anybody that they came away with the gold medal and as well as a number of individual honours. What did it feel like being up against such tough competition out there?
I think, am I back now? Have I got a hotspot? Yeah. So we live quite rurally, so when the wind's high, the internet just drops in and out as it pleases. I think for me, it was just speaking with the Americans, because I think we all had 2 ladies in our squad. So I was with Heather and we were squadded with Camden and Dakota. Laura and Holly, your squad had Peyton and Ruth, didn't it? So the entire sort of the British and American teams were split.
No Peyton, Ruth. There was no Ruth. I think it was just Peyton in ours.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but chatting with the Americans, they practice daily. They have coaches. They've got a lot more access to be able to shoot on a daily basis than we do in the UK. Obviously, America's a much bigger country. But I think that is a huge difference when you're sort of having to think on the fly with like learning different wrinkles, different positions, just having that practice and having that familiarity with your rifle makes a huge difference to what you're able to do in a competition. And they obviously have a lot more competitions that they go to. So weekly, monthly, they've got the option of going to competitions as regularly as they want to, which again just gets you that experience and calms your nerves a bit. So I think that's something that in the UK, more access to competitions, more access to training would be hugely important in future competitions.
Well, we're getting there. There's lots of us trying to make sure that we've got those opportunities to shoot. Sorry, Holly, carry on.
I spoke to one of the American girls who had as many shots in the week before she came to Italy as I had through my rifle altogether. Okay, wow. I literally had a rig kind of thrown together last minute. It was all a very last minute thing, me being there. But then, I know, shooting with Laura in the team, her juggling, being a mum, and, having, a partner who's shooting as well, and all the kind of demands of that on top of then trying to practice for this amazing opportunity. It was quite shocking to see how little we've done, but then, to stand on the podium with such little kind of practice, it makes me think, where are we going to be in a year's time, 2 years' time, when we've actually managed to, get to know our gear a little bit better and actually get some proper trigger time.
That's it.
Yeah, well, there's opportunities to come on, Laura.
Go on. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think mine's very similar to Annie and Holly, but I think the opportunity for them to practice really elevates their mindset when it comes to such a high pressure environment, because I know I completely messed up my first day of competing, and some of the morning was the second day, if I'm completely honest. But it was just nerves and just mindset and telling myself I wasn't good enough to be where they are. And it's just, once I had a bit of a talking to, and then, a couple of slaps around the cheeks, it's, you pull yourself together and you notice your shooting just go from here to here. So I think being able to practice more often and being able to be familiar with the competitive sort of environment, I think that would help massively. But I think that's what we're all working towards anyway, isn't it? So it's just a matter of time, really.
I do recall on day one, when you and Holly were down by the lake, and you both sat together, and it looked like you were having a bit of a tough moment, and trying to collect your thoughts and push through a difficult moment during the match. But I think you certainly pulled it around.
Yeah, I think we did well overall. Could have been better, could have been worse. So for me personally, I mean, I could have been better, but I could have been worse. So overall, fairly happy with what we accomplished as a team.
Absolutely, it was fantastic. And Annie, you had a few problems with equipment at the match, I believe.
Well, I had major problems. So the first 4 stages, I was in bits because I was scoring really low. I couldn't see where anything was going because the targets were sort of skylined, so you didn't get any clue from a backstop. And I started on the hill where all the targets were skylined, and I was thinking, am I going too far left? Am I going too far right? If I misjudged the wind. The one thing I wasn't really thinking about was elevation, because my rifle's spot on and I know the dope's been verified. So I wasn't thinking that. And it was Ryan who was with me and who was spotting. He said, "You're going low." And it was by the lunchtime we realised that my scope had completely flopped out. That was confirmed when we did a tall target test back at home. So all the short range ones that were in sort of like 100 to 110 yards, I was hitting, and I was like almost cleaning the stages. But anything that was further out, it was a lot of guesswork as to where my rifle was going. So by the end of the day, we were just like, right, forget this. And Ryan said, it's fine. You can use my rifle on your second day of shooting because we know that works. But then he shot so well on his first day of shooting. So the ladies shot on Thursday and Saturday, the men shot on Friday and Sunday. And he'd shot so well on the Friday that I was absolutely petrified that I was going to knock his rifle or drop the rifle or do something that was going to ruin his rifle and therefore ruin the chances. So I was sort of going really slowly and treating it like it was made of glass. And it wasn't until the lunchtime when it was actually Dakota, one of the American girls, and she said, look, I've got a spare scope, I've got a spare stock, I've got a spare chassis, I've got spare everything. We could rebuild your rifle. If anything happens, if you drop it, we can rebuild your rifle. I'll lend you anything you need. So it was only really then that I sort of shot and treated the rifle like I treat mine. So the second half of the second day was like a good time. The rest of it, oh yeah, nightmare, absolute nightmare.
So you all had your trials and tribulations to come through, it sounds like, on day one, but certainly pulled it off by the end of the 2-day match and standing on that podium with your bronze medals. Fantastic. Great, and you've all touched on it a little bit there as we've been talking about the support and the companions that you had while we were over in Italy. So Laura, you were part of a shooting duo, if I want to frame it like that. You had your partner Ben there.
Yeah, that's right. Ben was my support. So yeah, I found that massively helpful.
And Ben, obviously a precision rifle competitor in his own right and part of Team Great Britain that was shooting in open.
Yeah, that's right. He's been doing PRS for about a year, I think, longer than me, a year and a bit. As I was saying before, that's how I got into it. So just his experience with just simple things like wing calling, things that will come naturally to other people, don't come as naturally to me at the moment. Or stupid mistakes, like, for example, I zeroed one of the stages. That's when you mentioned before about you saw I was having a moment. I'd completely turned my turret all the way around. So rather than dialing elevation of 4, I had 14 on. So zeroed everything on that stage. And it was just something that, with experience, you wouldn't do. But I just didn't realise that I'd gone all the way around and carried it on. So it was just, a bit of a lesson. Always go back to zero when you leave a stage. But
I mean, look, nobody's immune from making those sorts of mistakes. Was it Josh Martin who had a bit of an error at the PRS UK finale? One of the top shooters in the UK, and he had was it a similar problem that he had with his? I
think it was, yeah.
So we're not immune. Nobody's immune to it.
Yeah, he'd reversed the elevation between the two targets. So we had the dope for target A, and he was shooting target B. It happens. I don't think experience is sort of negating.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, absolutely. But Laura, it wasn't just Ben that you were travelling with, or not just Louis either. You had some further support.
Yeah, I had a full team behind me. Yeah. So yeah, Ben was with me on the line. We originally, Louis was going to be on the line, like we do at matches in the UK. But sort of as it was getting closer and closer, he was getting a bit older, a bit more mobile, and we just thought, this isn't going to work. Gets bored easily now, obviously, because he wants to be on the go. So yeah, we decided to bring my mum. So my mum stayed back at the hotel complex, and they had a nice pool day and picnics and the lot. So they were supporting us from back at the hotel.
Fantastic.
And then on the other side, so Ben's mum and dad, Nanny and Grandad, they had our fur babies. So they had a house full of dogs. So yeah, it was a bit like Battersea Dogs over. So they were supporting us from home by taking the dogs as well.
I mean, that's a real team effort. And Holly, I think you had some support there at the team hotel also and at the range.
Yeah, my partner Marcus, long-suffering Marcus, got kind of dragged last minute into. So we actually drove to Italy, and kind of it was the whole Italy trip was sold to me. There's a phrase we keep using, wine, cheese and a bit of plinking is what Ryan Charlton said that it was all be about. Wasn't told about opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, certainly no concept of being on a podium. And yeah, this bit of an Italian holiday for Marcus wasn't maybe much of a holiday, but he loved it. He was up the range with us. He was a chief water fetcher. The whole range was on a hill, which didn't help. So when it's the last minute, oh my God, someone's left something down there. He was off kind of, but no, it was, he's also a shooter and he runs a gun shop. So it was an interesting experience for him anyways. It's something that he's loved all his life, shooting, and it's certainly an aspect of shooting neither of us knew an awful lot about until we ended up there. So yeah, no, it was great having him there, and just a bit of a face that I've known for more than 5 minutes to look at in the crowd when you're getting a bit nervous. So yeah, no, very lucky to have him there.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good to have Marcus there. It was great fun. So if anybody wants to come and meet a Great Britain bronze medalist, which shooting shop is that they should come along to meet you?
It's Simpson Brothers Gun Shop.
Excellent. There we go.
Just off the A1 near Peterborough.
Excellent. And Annie, you had, as you've already mentioned, Ryan was there for moral support, and you were supporting him as well because he was in shooting in open division. That all clearly worked out well because he was helping you with rifles and other technical issues. Yeah,
the terrifying experience of borrowing his rifle on my second day after he'd shot with it so well on the first day. But no, it worked out well. Obviously, we do a lot of shooting together, and like Laura, that's how I got into it. Was with Ryan. So we kind of know each other's routines and know what to say to each other and stuff like that. I mean, big shout out as well to Lawrence Barnes, who was helping Heather. So Heather and I had Ryan and Loz with us to support for the 2 days that we were shooting. And Ryan and Lawrence were, stood behind us. They were working out wind calls. They were watching me shoot and then refining the wind call for Heather. And they were both just incredibly supportive. And I think, like Laura and Holly have said, having that team behind you, and I think that's true of all of Team GB, is having that buddy behind you, knowing that there's someone who can help with your wind calls, who can make sure you've got enough water, because the heat was relentless. There wasn't a lot of shade. So having someone there who reminds you, get your hat back on, get in the shade, get some water, sit down. It's the kind of thing that I think if we were out there on our own, perhaps wouldn't have done. And I think that would have taken its toll over the 2 years.
Yeah. And I think for people that are maybe a little less initiated in precision rifle and looking at YouTube videos or talking to the friends about the sport, they might consider it very much an individual sport where you're there looking after yourself. It's all on your shoulders to perform. And certainly when the buzzer goes and it's time to do the shooting, you are out there by yourself and nobody's allowed to interfere for the 90 seconds, 2 minutes that you're up shooting those 10 targets. But it is very much, especially when we go to a World Championship, it is very much a team sport. It's not just about the individual's result, it's about bringing home the result for the team in the division and obviously having a successful campaign across all the 22 shooters and everybody working together to make sure that happens. So do you have any reflections on how the actual campaign for Great Britain went this year? Was there anything that you thought worked really well? Anything that you'd maybe reflect on and change for next time?
The buddy system. So my Team GB buddy was Dean. So although I had my partner there, Marcus, he doesn't shoot PRS. He doesn't, and it was my first match. So even like the sequence of how everything goes, where do you put your rifle in the bag, when do you get the rifle out, it's a strange kind of like hybrid from target shooting, but then you're moving and then all of a sudden you're in another country, and then how do those rules translate when you've got a quite animated Italian explaining these rules. So having that so Dean for me was that person to go through, right, have you checked this, have you checked you don't, have you done this, and having that person who understands it, even like down to explaining the winkles, like we're having a discussion, because I was with Laura's partner Ben was there as well, and so between Dean and Ben, Laura and myself, we're talking about the wind, and it was then Dean's ability to explain to me in quite simple terms, you know, I don't want to know about 0.3 and 0.7, like this is my target. We were literally, I needed crayons to draw from each other.
Where do I aim?
That ability for the more experienced shooters who have been where we've been, they all started and didn't know anything either, to break that down to collectively help us all shoot our best, and that's that real team spirit. And you didn't see that as much with the other teams as far as I could see, and that, yeah, I certainly think that helped motivation. It certainly helped scores. I know that I wouldn't have shot as well if I hadn't have had Laura in the team, if I hadn't had Dean helping. So yeah, that was a real highlight for me, was that kind of real collective team spirit.
I think it was quite funny as well that days 1 and 2, it was Team GB, who anytime you saw a Team GB shooter, there'd be somebody in a Team GB shirt right behind them. By days 3 and 4, the other countries were doing it as well, and you noticed more of a support and backup crew for all the other countries. I think it was definitely something that the people in our squad commented on, and they said it was so nice to see the team spirit and the team supporting each other, because there's perhaps not so much of that. Like they've said, it's more of an individual sport in some of the countries.
And that team spirit and team working was something that very much started last year at the inaugural Centre-Fire Precision Rifle World Championships in France. And it felt to me, having been to France and also been to Italy, that in Italy it was taken to another level of refinement in terms of how the team approached the campaign. I was just about to ask Laura. Oh, she's got the same chair as me in my kitchen.
Sorry, the dog's snoring, so I was trying to shut the dog up.
He's good. We can't hear him. I was just gonna say, Laura, I was just reflecting on how that team ethos really started when we were in France, and has been carried forward into Italy and maybe taken to another level. And one of the key factors I think played into that was was having a team hotel where the vast majority of us were all together in one place. How did that work out for you, Laura?
Yeah, I think that was nice. You know, particularly in the evenings, for example, after day 1, we all got together. We talked about, obviously, because it was the ladies, factory and seniors, I think, if that's right, all shooting day 1. So we all got together, and obviously we could discuss how we found certain props, things we would advise against, not or for, to help obviously the open lads and the juniors going forward the next day. Sorry, you can probably hear the dog now. But I think having those little meetings at night, and then they'd do it the next day, so we'd look at the course of fire that we were going into the day after, and we'd just all share as a team what we found, because obviously, although people had individual sort of aspirations, it was about bringing home what we could for the team. So it was about how we could help each other, how we could help the less experienced guys get the most impact from what they can do compared to the more experienced guys, maybe doing things a bit differently because they know they can get through things quicker. And for example, I know my partner Ben, he almost never times out because he can move very quickly, even if it's with a tripod or whatever, whereas I'm always basically timing out at the moment because I'm still trying to implement my processes and get it right. Yeah. So I try and hit the shots I take rather than being speedy, basically. So yeah, I think just going through how other people found it helped us as a team, I think.
Excellent. Annie, did you want to come in there? Sorry. No, it looked like you were about to say something. That was all.
Oh no, I just agreeing completely with what Laura said. I think those meetings in the evening were just really useful, because even if, you know, you had, because I obviously shot terribly on day 1, and just because my scope wasn't sort of working, but it was nice to be able to come back to the hotel and tell the other shooters, well, no, this prop is solid. You can actually do this. This is a really good kneeling height. And just give that feedback of, well, this is what the RO told us, so make sure you ask about that, and you can't touch this bit of the prop, and just so that you could have that sort of preparedness in your head before they went into it on the second day. So I think for me it was just nice because I felt like I was doing something useful.
And Holly, Umbria, just an absolutely gorgeous part of Italy, a gorgeous part of the world. What did you think about the location and our Italian hosts?
It was amazing. I've never been to Italy. Yeah, stunning location. The drives in the morning, there was about 3 or 4 different ways you could get from the hotel to the shooting range, and we deliberately tried to see them all because it was just stunning. The opening ceremony was that was, I didn't expect it to be so big. I hadn't really thought about it. You're so busy worrying about the actual shoot that all the kind of the ceremony hadn't really kind of crossed my mind. So to get there and there to be a giant flag and we're walking as a team, and the whole town stopped, and you've got the mayor talking. I mean, that was feel very, very welcome, and it made just made it feel a really, really special occasion, which it was. And it was nice that they were kind of as honoured to have us as we were to be there, I suppose.
Yeah, and of course we had the swimming pool at the hotel, which was very welcome relief at the end of the day.
Yeah, that always
makes. I think everybody's agreeing with that. Yeah. Okay, so I guess one thing that we've been trying to do in the GBPRA over the short years that we've been an association in the UK is trying to encourage not only more people into the sport, but trying to bring more juniors, more ladies into the sport as well. So what's the journey been like for you guys getting into precision rifle shooting? Start with Laura on the left, maybe. Oh no, Annie, go on. You go first, then Annie.
I'm just going to jump in. Just say, for me, it's been quite easy because Ryan shoots a lot. Ryan's in the industry as well, so we've kind of got relatively easy access to the kits to be able to go away for the weekends and stuff. So for me, it's been a relatively smooth sort of process into precision rifle shooting. But I think there's definitely more. We definitely need more women. It's a sport that women can do. You can get a rifle that suits your build, and you can, weight it and balance it to suit you. As Laura said, you don't have to go fast to be particularly fast or strong. You can just take your own time. As long as you hit what you're aiming at, you're still going to come out with a good score. So it's definitely a sport that I think more women should be involved in. Because we want more medals in the future. We want to keep this momentum going and grow the team and send the best team that we possibly can to future championships. Absolutely,
and I find the precision rifle as a sport is a great leveller across the sexes. If you look at Peyton Grimes, who I think did she come 3rd overall out of all of the 179 shooters that were there. Which is just a fantastic achievement in its own right, and just demonstrates that this is the sort of sport where men and women can compete to a certain degree on a level playing field.
Yeah. I would tend to agree with that. I think it's something where you can compete for equal playing field because you can get rifles set up to sort of relative to your body weight, so they're not as heavy. So for example, I started using Ben's rifle, which was quite long, quite heavy, just before we went out to Italy, which probably wasn't the best timing. We chucked it into a different chassis that was just a bit shorter and a little bit lighter for me to move around, and it just helped that little bit. It wasn't as long for my levers, things like that. So I think you can get your things set up to you. Like Annie, I was very welcome into sport. It's been a bit of a roller coaster journey. There's been bits and bobs, which I think you get with any sport. At the moment, it's a very male predominant sport, and you're going to get a little comment here and there. I think it's not very realistic to expect otherwise. I tend to like the boys' toys, should we call them? So I play football. I've done fishing. So you know, you get used to it. But I think the more women we can get involved, the more it's normalised, and we can create our own ladies' community. I think the better going forward. Yeah, and like you said with Peyton, you know, she's matching the men over in the US. It'd be amazing if we could develop it, you know, far enough for us to become that level, basically. But I think it would be unrealistic to expect it to be smooth sailing all the time for everybody. But no, I think majority, 98%, are very, very welcoming, lovely, friendly people, and we'll try and get you involved.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
I think.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, I think that's something that's quite interesting because Laura, you've always been involved in, as you say, like football, fishing. Whereas when I was growing up, I was in like more girly sports. I was in like all the dancing and stuff. And you know, with things like that where there's a lot of girls and it's very competitive, it gets a little bit catty, and there's comments and people have their own little cliques. With shooting, like going out to the World Championships and meeting all these women, it's like, oh, you're a girl and you like guns too. Oh, let's be friends. And everyone's very supportive because they know that there's not that many women involved. So I think for a sport for women to get involved in, it's just somewhere where I think it's, as you say, great equalizer between men and women. The girls can beat the boys, but also it's one of the most supportive, like, female communities that I've ever found, because your commonality is you like guns, there's not many of us, so let's all support each other and help each other and bring each other up.
So I'd love for my daughter to start shooting and start joining me on the road with my son Luca, who got into shooting about a year or so ago. But having to fund her shooting as well as my son's shooting just fills me with dread. I don't know how I'd afford it. So please don't ever meet my daughter. Don't ever try to encourage her to pick up the rifle and start shooting, because it'll bankrupt me, I think. Holly, you mentioned earlier that you've only been shooting precision rifle just lately, but you've been a shooter for a long time now. How did you actually get into shooting?
I didn't grow up shooting. I grew up really involved in kind of wildlife conservation in my local area. There's a great big nature reserve, and I was that kind of, used to run around with the kid with my binoculars and collecting bugs and being a bit of a tomboy outside. And I actually got into shooting about 8 years ago by getting involved with the local farmers who were doing it. There's actually a deer cull. I could see that the deer were doing a lot of damage. I like watching deer, but I can accept that there was a need to kind of thin the numbers. I also like cooking, and I saw a great kind of this kind of added up in my head. So kind of got into deer stalking. I was a pest controller as well, and kind of all of a sudden shooting was everything, and it went from never having shot to always having a gun. I had a little kind of stint with competition clay shooting, which probably actually gave me quite a good grounding for Italy, because although it was my first PRS competition, it wasn't my first competition. And so those kind of competition nerves weren't a new thing. I'm still not brilliant at dealing with them, but it wasn't an entirely new situation. But yeah, so been shooting longer than Annie and Laura, but when you're hunting, it's a lot more dynamic than PRS, because you're moving like you are in PRS, but also the target's moving. And when it's an animal, you're doing your damn best to be as ethical and as humane as you can. So you're not shooting nowhere near the amount of ammunition, and you're not having as much trigger time as a target shooter would do when you're actually hunting. You shoot paper, obviously, until you're happy with how your rifle is. But yeah, I kind of, it was Annie's husband, Ryan, it was a Facebook message where he mentioned wine and cheese, and I thought, this sounds good fun. What's all this about? It's with a team. That'll be something to do for the summer. It will only help my hunting because it's time behind a rifle. That's always a good thing. And yeah, I thought I'd give it a go. And I remember it being explained that you shoot off different props. And I don't know, it was Annie or somebody said they went somewhere and they had to shoot there was a truck involved and they had to lean on a truck or lean off a wing mirror to shoot. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of what we do, right? So it was kind of an easy step, really. And what I didn't expect to enjoy shooting targets as much as I have. I've had, I think I've had nearly 4,000 shots through my 2.2 now. That's to me as a like a deer stalker, that's a lot of shooting. To a target shooter, it's nothing. But that's only going to have helped me be a better shot, therefore me be a better stalker and me be able to do what I need to do in a better way. I then met this really cool group of people who threw a kit at me, and Annie saying, hey, here's borrow my rifle, because you can't just go and pick up a rifle the next day, there's paperwork involved and all that kind of stuff, once I'd agreed to do it. So I've got Annie saying use my rifle, then all of a sudden I'm driving to Wales in the absolutely torrential rain to like go and meet even more random people in a quarry, to get really wet and roll around in the rain shooting at targets you can barely see because it's misty, and it's just been such a surreal summer, but one that I've really enjoyed. And it's just been an amazing opportunity, and I can't wait to get behind my rifle again.
Excellent, that's good to hear, great to hear in fact. And you ladies do represent a small minority within the precision rifle shooting community. Is there anything that we can be doing within that community, within the organisation of the sport, to make it more accessible and more inclusive for lady shooters?
I mean, I will raise it. I think a lot of women are put off because of the distances that you're shooting. I think this is more applicable to centerfire than 2.2 perhaps, but a lot of the ranges that we shoot on, it is literally just a field. So there's no like ladies facilities. Obviously men, you are okay. I mean, I spent many years as a teacher, so I'm used to going all day without a loo break, but I don't think most women are or happy to. So there's basic things like that, like standing in a field all day, getting cold and wet because there's no protection from the weather. It really doesn't appeal to everyone. And I think that's probably true of men as well. But I think for women, having the facilities there is perhaps a barrier to women returning, maybe.
Yeah. This is just a bit of a wild one, but I think maybe the accessibility with the firearms issue as well. For example, I haven't got a firearms certificate, but my rifles and things can travel on bends, because obviously technically they're his rifles. But perhaps other ladies might not have anybody in the family with one. So maybe if it's advertised a little bit more that there's, I don't know, say a club rifle that's accessible to use to get into the sport, and they just, I don't know, pay for the ammo or contribute something towards it for its wear and tear. That might be a way to go about getting newbies in that haven't got an FAC. I don't know if that's something that can be done, or if there's laws in place to prevent that. But just it's just something off the cuff, really, to think about.
Well, I mean, those are all sort of really important topics that need to be addressed and need to be tackled. I think accessibility to shooting sports is not just an issue between men and women. I think generally getting into shooting sports, whatever sex you are, can be a bit of a minefield, and it's not often the easiest thing for anybody to do. But absolutely, we should be making sure as a sport that we do everything that we can to support everybody to get into it, and especially ladies that have got their own unique challenges. Have you got any messages for any girls, ladies out there that are maybe thinking about getting into the sport but haven't made the jump yet?
For me, I'd say just turn up. Like, I was so nervous the first time I started shooting, particularly when Ryan was like, no, the only way to learn is to do it. So just turn up at a match and shoot a match. And that was, I had a few shots through his rifle, but I'd had a practice day. So I practiced on some props somewhere in a field, essentially. But my first real sort of experience of PRS was precision rifle, was doing a competition. And I think particularly with the lack of, there's not that many places you can go and practice. There aren't that many ranges where you can shoot long range. So actually just turning up and doing the competitions, no one minds if it's your first competition. People will coach you when you're on the stage. They'll help you, like guide you into the target. They'll give you pointers. They'll lend you kits. They all genuinely want to see more shooters. So people will help you out when you turn up to your competitions. And then as you go on and get more experience, you can start doing more on your own. And then as a squad, you'll help out with win calls and advice on stages. But as you go through the competitions, it really is the only way to learn and to pick it up is by actually doing it.
Yeah, and what I would say as well is that sometimes it helps people if they can talk to somebody like them, who can guide and mentor them and give them the benefit of their experiences and their advice. And in the GBPRA, we have our website www.gbpra.co.uk, and for a very small subscription, anybody can join the GBPRA, and that opens up, access to you guys as our lady shooters through our social media connections and through our forum on the website. So, if a lady shooter was ever to reach out to any of you, would you be there to support them and help them and advise them on their steps into the sport?
Definitely.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm sure you'd say the same to any girls that are into hunting. You'd say give the competitions a go.
Yeah. I mean, since my PRS journey, I have had rifles, ammo, bags, kit, everything kind of chucked in my hands initially when I turned up for the first training match, training session in Wales, and went, "Hi, I don't have a rifle yet, but apparently I'm coming with you guys." And that was men and women, but we do need slightly different rifles than the men. I'm sure all of us would be quite happy to lend any of our kit if anybody wants to turn up. If any ladies out there make the effort and turn up somewhere or reach out, then more than welcome. Any advice we can give, even things like, what do you wear to PRS? It sounds like a stupid thing. I remember saying to Annie, like, what on earth do you wear? I don't want my bulky hunting clothes, but it's like a sport. And, things like that. There's no stupid questions, because trust me, I would have asked Annie all of the questions.
And I would never, ever try and give you girls any sort of clothing advice. So it probably is best if those questions are directed to yourselves.
But no, it's a very, very friendly bunch. And any help. I mean, I've had messages on Instagram with people saying, "So how do you kind of get into this?" I think from the GBPRA, the beginners days, I know you've had, there was one actually just after I started, which sadly I couldn't make. And there's some other kind of ones in the pipelines. To have, like, particularly if there's ladies showing an interest, if one of us can go, we can bring a rifle which we know is going to be a little bit lighter, a bit shorter in the stock, a bit more comfortable, and even just having a female to stand there as well just gives you that little bit more confidence. It takes quite a lot of guts to turn up to a thing like that anyways, but when as a female, there's going to be very few women, if any, when you turn up to something like that. So anything we can do to help the GBPRA, if there's any ladies, we'll gladly step in.
Well, there you go. Anybody listening that's wanting to get into the sport, you've got 3 Team Great Britain lady shooters that have bronze medal holders. Who better to give you the advice and support that you need in your first steps in the sport? That's fantastic. Thank you. Wow. So you must have all been very, very proud to have walked down that opening ceremony parade, flying the Great Britain flag. And memory to stay with you forever.
Yeah, it was a bit surreal.
Yeah. Hearing the national anthem, I don't know why, I just didn't expect them to play it. I don't know why. And then it came on and I was like, oh, it started welling up. And I was like, oh no. But no, it was nice to hear.
No, but again, I guess, if there's anything else that you want to say in closing out the podcast, I'd probably just close with just saying, you know, again, a massive congratulations for everything that you achieved over there. It was the first World Championships of Precision Rifle 2-2, and you've got a unique honour there in being bronze medalists it's something you can all feel very proud of for a long time. So yeah, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
USA next year?
We'll see.
I'm saying no now, but I've just had my centerfire rebarreled, so possibly now.
No excuses, darling.
Yeah, well, we need to send 4 lady shooters to represent Great Britain again at the Centerfire Precision Rifle World Championships in America in September next year, and we certainly hope that you guys will be flying the flag for Great Britain again.
We'll see.
Okay, so Laura, Holly, Annie and Heather, wherever you are with your studies, thank you very much for being great team members and for joining me on the podcast tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's this?
This is Timmy. This is very sleepy Timmy. He's very confused to why he's not on the sofa with me.
Timmy is very cute.
Naughty. Oh dear.